Coming up today on David versus Goliath.
If you're a bootstrapper, entrepreneur, you owe it to yourself to look into these types of tools.
Job means just over broke. You start your own business, you're broke or you're not broke.
Welcome to today's episode of David versus Goliath, a podcast dedicated to helping small businesses leverage technology to not only help them compete against their large competitors, but win. Your host is currently the CEO of Anthem Business Software, a three-time Inc. 500 recipient, and a serial entrepreneur with a passion to help small businesses everywhere find, serve, and keep more customers profitably. Please join me in welcoming your host, Adam DeGraide.
Hey everyone, it's Adam DeGraide with the David versus Goliath podcast. It's a beautiful day here in central sunny Florida. Hopefully everyone, it's beautiful where you are as well too. Today we have Van Carlson, the founder and CEO of the SRA 831B. What the heck does that mean? This should be awesome. Today's episode is brought to you by AutomateMySocial.com, where if you're a small business, you can automate 100% of your social media. Never have to think about it again, including the creation, posting, and strategy of future content. Pretty wild. And no, this is not using AI technology and GPT, chat GPT, and all these other things. This is real content, real information that your potential customers need to know. Check out the demo today at AutomateMySocial.com. Also, you can visit us online at davidvsgoliathpodcast.com. There you can apply to be on the podcast and subscribe to receive our newsletters. Well, let's get right to it. Van, welcome to the David versus Goliath podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Looking forward to our conversation.
We did it. I can't believe it. We got your microphone and your speakers to work. It's always a great day when that happens. When I saw this come through the email, I said, very rarely do I get some business that I've never really heard of or I'm not familiar with. Although I will tell you, I pay a lot of people to be familiar with these things, so hopefully they're familiar with them. But when I started to read about the SRA 831B, which is fascinating, I said to my daughter, Brooke, who helps me schedule these events, I said, Brooke, I've got to have him on. I've got to talk to him about it. So Van, for the watchers and listeners, primarily watchers, tell them a little bit about what SRA 831B, your company, actually does.
Yeah, so we're a risk management company. 831B, for the down and dirty of it it's very comparable to a 401k. And what the 401k allows you to do is, build up retirement for yourself as an owner and the employees. And 831B, now these are just tax codes, right? We are looking at the ability to defer income in the business, expense it, drop it into an 831B, and now gives you the ability to build up a rainy day fund. And that's really where, it's been around since 1986. And if you look back in 1986, which was a long time ago, you were, basically what was happening back then, there was a liability, crisis liability. People were being non-renewed, traditional insurances. Congress got together and said, hey, we need to create an incentive for business owners to really take on risks they either couldn't transfer to traditional means or they were basically self-insuring. Now, fast forward today after COVID-19, and I think 831B is probably more important than ever today for small to middle market business owners to start to build away their own rainy day funds. I know the PPP came in and now we've got employee credit retention and all that good stuff going on, but, we still don't know all the ramifications of what we did after COVID-19 and during COVID-19. For me personally, I think it's one of the substantial letdown. It felt like a little ad hocing going on. And one of the things that we're talking today with business owners about is what does round two look like if that was to be in our next 20 years? We can't do what we did in the past. We got to have a better plan in place. And the 831B, this literally allows you to build up your own rainy day fund through insurances, through the ability not to, if you're going to retain the risk and you can't transfer it to traditional insurance, this is the tool you got to use. And that's really what it comes down to. And we're the administrator, no different than a 401k administrator, no different than a company you got to hire to assess R&Ds, research and development discounts for your tax returns. You got to have an administrator help administer the tax code. And that's where we fill in as an 831B administrator.
That, it's fascinating because, so basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, it's a way to take deferred earnings or deferred profits of the business, and instead of paying taxes on those, you're funding an SRA 831B account, which is put aside in the eventual, the hopefully unlikely scenario that you need the money to cover for an insurance risk. So you were underinsured, or you weren't able to get insured in a specific area of your business. And now the 831B kicks in, allows you to use that money. You weren't taxed on it, so you have 100% of it at that time. What happens as the business goes along? At what point does it become due? Is it a transfer of ownership and a sale of the business, or does it carry on forever?
It can. I mean, we have rules in place. I mean, we do need more guidance from the IRS to get us down the path on some of these things, and it's coming with time. I will say this, it is a C Corp. So the 831B plan has the box it sits in has to look and feel like an insurance company. So there are some qualifying elements. There's a 4-part test to it and all that good stuff. And that's really, those are just regulations that get put into any code, right? I mean, the 401k's got a ton of codes or really legal precedents where 401k sits today, which has become more of a traditional business concept, right? We think the 831B is going to get there too. But, down the road, if the business sells, what we see too in selling a business is the company doesn't get devalued, because a lot of people don't have, we call them unfunded risk, is your rep and warranty, right? If you're going to sell a bunch of product out there and give warranties out to it, now you're going to sell your business, commercial bankers and all those lovely folk, they like to devalue businesses because of all that. When they have these kind of plans, so when they have these kind of strategies in place.
I'm very familiar with that, Van. I have built and sold several businesses in my life, and they want to devalue everywhere they can devalue them, but you got to fight back. You got to push back hard, because your business is worth more than they want to give you for it. And if you don't believe it, they'll not believe it. And that's a really important thing. You said something fascinating. You said you were kind of disappointed. I was massively disappointed with the way everyone handled COVID. I thought COVID I still to this day think it's totally nuts. And by the way, I'm probably going to get censored for saying that. I mean the response to it. I'm not saying that it wasn't real. I'm not a doctor. The response to COVID was 100% completely nuts, especially in the business world, including the fact that they gave away free money. Supposedly, nothing's free, and the fact that none of us know what's going to happen at the end of it. And I think what you're suggesting to the watchers and listeners is smart, because when you take something from somebody and they haven't clearly articulated or defined what that means to you, you could become shackled and beholden to them in the future if they haven't clearly defined what, in fact, they are giving you and what you owe them. And so it's interesting you said that, because I have gone through this in real time, because I sold my business in 2020. I don't know if you knew that or not. I did not know that. I sold my last business in 2020, and that was in March. I know, we sold it in November. So we sold in the heat of the heat of the moment, as they say, the heat of the moment. So Ben, hold on, Ben, I got to take a break, and I can sometimes yap a little bit too much, but when we come back, I promise we're going to continue the dialogue. You're with the handsome host, Adam DeGraide, Van Carlson from the SRA 831B. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Do you own a business? Do you have or need a social media presence? If you are like most businesses, you spend either no time or too much time and money on your social media strategy, spending thousands of dollars per month only to get mediocre and inconsistent results. This leads to frustration and, in some cases, sleepless nights. Introducing AutomateMySocial.com. Automate 90% of your social media and never have to think about it again. That's right. Automate your business's social media posting and strategy like forever. Automate the essentials and customize only what's needed. Save time, save money, and get better results with AutomateMySocial.com. Our patent-pending technology gives you the ability to automatically create your social post and distribute them immediately, like in seconds, across all your social media platforms. Stop the madness of paying someone someone to create, post, and manage your strategy, and let our software do the work, so you don't have to. Oh, and if you're an agency or social media manager, you too can let our software do all the work, and you can get all the credit. It will be our little secret. With AutomateMySocial.com, you can have it all. It's easy to use, never complains, and never asks for time off or more benefits. See this amazing new software application at AutomateMySocial.com. If you own a business or manage client social media and want to save time, energy, money, all while increasing your return on investment, then let's get this party started at AutomateMySocial.com.
And we're back for segment 2 with the bearded wonder boy, Van Carlson from the SRA 831B. I wanted to give you a chance to respond to my tirade against the insanity that we all went through.
The exciting thing about risk management is we work with business owners, and we do have response teams. Like I've worked with companies out of Houston area that have hurricane response. They have a hurricane exposure, so we build a response team to that, right? Or earthquake prone areas, or you have to have an action plan. You can't, especially for your business, right? Which was disappointing to me in COVID-19 was it seemed like a lot of ad hocing going on, and they made up rules after they gave the money away. And I will tell you this, Adam, I think it's the tip of the iceberg is already just started with the amount of fraud. And again, I come back to everybody and I say, listen, there's a code on the books, allows business owners to do that. Clarify it, get some hair off of it, make it a normal business practice, because if you're a bootstrapper, entrepreneur, and what you said earlier, you want to be beholden to anybody, then you owe it to yourself to look into these types of tools. And that's really what it comes down to.
That makes you a slave to something else you have to avoid at all costs. And as you know, Van, one of the things they're trying to do now to us is get rid of the actual monetary system the way we know it, make it all electronic. That will absolutely make you a slave to everyone who is watching you. Trust me, if there's no more cash, if there's no more actual real money, and it's all digital, you are a slave. And I'll probably get in trouble for saying that, but I don't care. I think my brother said something fascinating yesterday to me. We were talking about a lot of different things. And he said, the next things that they ask us to do, we all just have to say no. Because at the end of the day, you get the government you deserve. You get the policies you deserve. And if we want something different, to your point, you have to act differently, and you have to prepare for it in advance, because what you don't prepare for in advance will kill you. But if you prepare for it in advance, you can take on just about anything. Now, switching gears. So I know people love personal side of this stuff too. You started your business, I think it was 2008, right? Is that when you started it?
Yeah, right during the Great Recession. So it was a great time.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. Some of the best, I remember I had an insurance agent once that was a client of mine. He says, never let a good crisis go to waste. He used to say that all the time.
There's truth to that, really. So.
Yeah, and you come from the insurance space. Tell people a little bit about how you started SRA 831B. I think people love to hear those stories.
I was introduced to this concept around that time, and I didn't really see much value in it until the Great Recession hit. And unfortunately, I saw a lot of my business clients, great clients, pillars in the community, unfortunately go out of business. And it's because they knew leverage. So they just kept betting every year was going to be better. And that's a hint of insanity, right? And so I looked at this as a way to manage the financial.
It's more delusion than insanity. It's not necessarily insanity, it's delusion, which is a very big difference. Now, if you're deluded a few times and then you keep getting duped and then you continue to do it, that's insanity. But delusions of grandeur is the first step to insanity. So
and God bless business owners. You got to have short-term memory, right? I mean, you wouldn't get out of bed sometimes, and they do. And so that's, again, mine started out of more of the financial risk business owners take, and how do we manage it better? Because this is what smart money does, to your point, right, about the crisis and stuff. People make their money during those crises. The smart money, the business, big companies, right? It didn't matter what's going on in the economy. They'll still make money. Well, how do you position your business to do the same thing? And I think this is a tool that does that. So that's really, and now we're a 15-year overnight success story, I tell people. But truthfully, it's taken a lot of work. We learned a lot of stuff. We've got some cases that won by the IRS that showed us the way to do some things right. And now I think we're ready. And COVID-19 obviously is proof of concept at this point. And I think we're ready to grow massively and really make this a normal business practice. That's what we got to tell business owners. Don't rely on the PPP next time. Don't reply. And here's the other thing. Look at cyber exposures. Look at third party. Look at the amount of companies you rely today on third parties that if something happened to them on their supply chain risk or their ability to communicate to you, how that's going to affect your business. Third party liability exposure is huge today, and nobody's even addressing that in the insurance community today. And there's a ton of risk that goes on in businesses that they don't realize they had it until it's too late sometimes.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting. So when you look at all the crises that led you to start your own business, all the areas of weakness you saw, one of the things I liked on the sheet that you put here is that you didn't want to have a job anymore because a job meant for you that you were just over broke. So you were just over broke. And it's funny you say that.
It's probably always something like that, right? I mean,
it's funny you say that because in my life, I've had jobs and then I've been a job creator. Every time I've had a job, I've been just over broke.
Yeah.
Every time I've been a job creator, I've either been broke or not broke. So hold on. Ways to go, folks. Job means just over broke. If you start your own business, you're broke or you're not broke. Those are the only two decisions.
And truthfully, I was willing to work 60, 70 hours a week I was working for FedEx at the time. I was going to blood, sweat, and tears, bleed purple. And I thought, man, if I'm going to do this for a company, why wouldn't I do this for myself?
Exactly.
And that's really where the just over broke thing came from. I mean, I had a financial planner tell me that, and it drives me nuts when I hear kids talk like that coming out of college. I'm just looking for a job. It's like, no. Always position, if you're looking for a job, always position that job to grow, learn something from it, and move on to the next one. And eventually you'll find your path. But if you're not learning, move on, go to the next job. That's the way, because that's all it is a job.
If you're not growing, you're shrinking. And
yes.
A great little funny story about that is I was with my father, who is now 75. And my dad used to be 6'1". I think he's like 5'7" now. Because if you're not growing, you're shrinking. And we had a little funny, my brother and I still, we're not growing anymore, which means we actually started shrinking, but we're at the peak of our height that we actually will be, Van. And so we were starting to take pictures of my dad going, little daddy. And he was laughing. My mom was laughing at it too, because my mom's really short. You think my dad's short. My mom got even shorter. And that's what it's all about. Like, just like your body actually shrinks and disintegrates before you die, so do things in business and your personal life if you're not growing. So if you're not working on your personal life, if you're not working on your business and it's going this way, it doesn't stay here. It either goes here or it goes here. But it doesn't stay here. It might be there for a short period of time, but that's not the way the world works. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Van and Adam DeGraide. Here's another message from another great sponsor here on David versus Goliath. Stay tuned.
At ISU RMAC Agency, we want to be your one responsible source for all of your insurance needs. From a rocket engineer in California to several hospitals in Illinois, our personal lines team specializes in hard-to-place risks and high-net-worth clientele. With 2 locations and 20-plus agents, we can write in all 50 states to better serve our clients with needs in multiple states. Family-owned and operated since 1962, and 4 generations carrying on the tradition of insurance. Celebrating our 60th year in the industry, we are truly proud of where we have come from and where we are going. With over 300 carriers nationwide, our agency can offer individuals and businesses more choices and better prices. ISU RMAC brings a wide variety of solutions to the table. For more information, visit us online at www.isu-rmac.com.
And I'm back. The reckless man, Adam DeGraide here, screaming at the top of his lungs today. I'm pumped. I'm a huge Rush Limbaugh fan. I used to love it when Rush would, do that on the microphone and say his formerly nicotine-stained fingers. God bless that man. I'm reading his book right now, Radio's Greatest of All Time. And I miss him. Like, no offense to all you cats that are out there. I might just have to take over his show because, quite frankly, there's not enough entertainment out there with good senses of humor. And he was amazing. So, in closing, one of the last things we talk about is courage, right? So, to go just over broke means you have to be broke to start your own business. And then you can flip it, right? What gave you the courage, Van, to start your business and keep you going?
I had a young family. I was married at 19 or 20. My wife was 19. And I'll tell you what, man, nothing scares you more than anything than being responsible for other humans. And so I use fear, scared to jump over the hump, man. I mean, sometimes you get paralyzed or sometimes it causes you to go into action. And today I try to focus on not worrying about things because I think somebody told me, worrying is the practice of fear, and I will avoid that at all costs because I don't want to fear anything. I think it's an extremely most intense emotion I think humans have, and so for me, it's like if I start to feel that way, I start to look in a direction that I need to run to, and an SRA we use a buffalo as our mascot, and one of the things that's fascinating about the buffalo is when they see a storm coming across the prairie, they turn into the storm and they run through the storm, and they know on the back end there's fruitful abundance of new grass and everything else that's growing in there, and they've learned that, they've evolved to that back over the hundreds of years. And I always try to keep that in mind, where if you see the storm coming, turn into it and take it head on, and that's kind of where that's where we went.
I love that, by the way, the buffalo. One of my favorite football players of all time said something similar to that. His name is Tom Brady. I'd like to tell you he's my personal friend, but he's not. I wish he was my personal frid.
Yeah, right.
He used to say things like, "A storm is brewing, and I am the storm." And I've always loved that kind of mentality, right? It's either, there's two things you never run from. I've said this before on the podcast. For my regular watchers, you've heard this before. For those of you who haven't, that means you're not watching enough. There's two things you never run from. Okay? Problems or praise. And people find that fascinating because people love to run from problems, right? Hide, hunker. To your point, turn into them, face them, get through it, right? The quicker you face it, the quicker you can get through it. So never turn away from a problem, run into it. The other problem is praise. Some people are not good, Van, at being they're doing a great job. Now, others have been told their whole lives that they're beautiful. We pat them on the fanny. You're going to be great. And it's not true. They're horrible human beings. But for those of us that value and run into problems, and those of us that face these things every day, when somebody says, you know what, you mean a lot to me and you've changed my life, take it. Because suck that praise in as much as you can, because it's only a matter of time till you turn that corner. And as Van says, a buffalo and a storm is waiting. You got to turn around and you got to face that storm of life. Now, Van, how can people learn more about you and learn more about your business?
Really, we own the 831b.com website. And it's like owning the 401k.com website. So
how did you get that?
It's kind of a unique story. I'll have to tell you sometime. But Bree, my marketing gal, worked on it, and the people we bought it from didn't know what they had, so it worked out really well for us. But 831b.com, and that's really where they can start. We have educational videos on there. The one thing I try to tell people is, you took a risk to do what you did. Now, how do you mitigate that risk? And really, it's utilizing tools like this. I mean, your competitors are doing it. Your big company, if you're competing against big companies, they've been doing these types of tools for many, many years. And now we're trying to level the playing field and not be dependent the next time you have to worry about, do I qualify for PPP or employee credit retention? You're doing things on your own. And I think that's one thing I learned in the last couple of years is, we all pride ourselves on being bootstrappers and are we or are we not? If you're going to run to the government to help bail you out, and hey, nobody had a choice last time. I get that. There's a choice on the table now.
Yeah, we're smarter now. They can't pull the wool over my eyes anymore, Van. First of all, I don't think the wool was ever pulled over my eyes. I was the guy that was constantly yelled at. Where's your mask? Where's this? Why aren't you out of the house? Why aren't you at your house? Why aren't you staying safe? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? I said, who made you my mother? It's like, what are we talking about here? I'm a big boy. I'm 50 years old at the time, or whatever it was, 48, 49. I can't remember at this point how old I am. But at some point, you got to take control of yourself. You don't want to be a slave to somebody else, and you can do it, and Van can help. Van, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the David versus Goliath podcast. Have you had fun?
I have, and hey, Adam, thank you very much, man. It's been a great conversation, and you make me want to watch you. So that's I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad too. So now, for the watchers and listeners, they're going to find this out right now. You need to go subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on Spotify, although we don't have a lot of Spotify viewers. It's mostly YouTube, and then Rumble. I don't know if you've heard of Rumble. Rumble's a very big competitor to YouTube. They've been big supporters. We're about almost 13,000 subscribers there. So we love it here on the David versus Goliath podcast. We're having fun. So you need to go and subscribe and tell all your friends. Because I'm going to know. A little birdie's going to tell me, because I'm going to call Bree and I'm going to say, Bree, did he subscribe? And if she says no, this episode's not airing. So if I were you, go in and make it happen. Anyway, thank you so much, watchers and listeners. Another amazing episode in the can here at David versus Goliath. Where are you going to hear things like this? Did you even know there was such a thing as 831B? Hey, stay tuned next week. You never know what you're going to learn here on the David versus Goliath podcast. Have an awesome day.